Okay. The only thing I wanted to talk about is, our understanding is at some point here we're going to have an early sine die. We could work in the state capitol for another 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, and what we're hearing is that probably we're going to start early, end early. And I think the big concern for me is that this is our job. There's a whole lot of challenges that our state faces that we should still be working on. And so I'm concerned that cutting out early really looks bad to the public when they see things like child care crisis, the real challenges we're facing with health, and our infrastructure. So that's just my one statement. What do you guys want to talk about?
You and your caucus raised concerns about the abortion, drug trafficking bill, not only the bill itself, but the measure in which it was added to the agenda last night. Can you just kind of voice this?
Yeah, so there was a bill added to the agenda this morning, wasn't published on the agenda, had passed through committee a year ago, so obviously not on our minds, not something that we reviewed lately, and we didn't know it was coming up until it went on the board, essentially. The pro tem told me about 1 minute before it went up. And I'm worried, number one, why did that end up there? Why was that not planned for? Who made that decision and how? Was that a Freedom Caucus decision? That concerns me, that we're being driven by extremist agendas instead of choosing things that matter. And then the bill itself, it's a very political bill. Throughout, the author could not explain any enforcement mechanism or who really was responsible for it, which tells me that bill is there for a political talking point. And we had a lot of speeches that were campaign prep speeches to me.
Paxton said that they've essentially given up on getting those extra state questions on the August ballot. What's your response to that?
Well, I'm glad to hear we're not going to shoehorn a bunch of questions into August. I mean, if that's true, I'm still going to be vigilant until we sine die. But I think the people should get a chance to vote in November on those. If they're going to come up, they're very important to people's lives. We should not be undercutting voters. So if that's true, I'm very glad.
There was a recent poll of Oklahomans done by the Center for Education Policy, and it found that 13% graded the state's public school system as A or B, 65% graded a D or F, and 29% gave their local schools an A or B. So as a lawmaker, what do you take from this or learn from it, and do you think you guys did enough this session?
So in terms of public schools and people's public perception of it, I mean, I think it's a challenge when you don't have kids in the schools yourself. And I have an Oklahoma City public school student who's graduating in 2 weeks. One thing I like about early sine die is that I might be able to go to graduation without worrying about that. But my son's about to graduate from Northwest Claflin High School in Oklahoma City. 14 years in our public schools. He got an extra year there. I want to hear from people who have tried to learn what's going on in their local schools. I think when you see the A and B for people about their local school, I think that shows when they know the school, when they know the people, that they have more respect for it. I think there's been a campaign for years to undercut our trust in our schools, and it has worked. So when you see, do I think our schools are perfect? No. I have plenty of complaints, but overall, I see very strong educators who are trying their hardest to help kids succeed. I see a whole lot of mandates that are wasting their time, and they don't get to focus on kids when they need to. So I would just encourage people to connect with their local schools and try again to build that relationship. We have a great relationship in our neighborhood, where the neighborhood volunteers on certain projects, and I think it's really great because then they get to know the teachers, and it breaks down that barrier,
The Attorney General today called for an audit of managed care. Do you think that's worthwhile? There's stuff from managed care that are still kind of, that you didn't like. I know it wasn't something you backed in the first place, but I mean, do you think that's a good idea at this time to call for that audit?
So an auditing managed care. I'd worry about the timelines. I mean, we've only had it in place for a couple of years. Are we going to get enough information? I feel sure that between our healthcare authority, our local agency, and the federal agency, there's quite a lot of audits happening there. So I don't know what specifically he's looking for. If there's an implication there's fraud there, absolutely we should have an audit. But I'm worried that that'll be an awfully slow way to find that out. We always should be looking for efficiencies. I would love to also see some of the high points because I've been very impressed with the maternal health data. I think given a little flexibility, those corporations have been able to do more preventative care for babies and moms to be healthy. We should be looking at those bright spots and incorporating them across the whole system. What else do y'all want to talk about?
The governor's been vetoing some sunset bills like we saw him do last year again. Have you had any conversations about veto overrides or just your thoughts on those?
We have not talked about veto overrides yet, and I'm worried about that because some of them it's about are they going to function or not. So there is a bill moving through that would get rid of sunsets for a whole lot of agencies, and if that passes, then I'm assuming we don't have to worry about the sunsets. So it's a very confusing time to figure out which one would take effect and when. Luckily, those agencies get about a year wind down period, even if they expire this summer. So there would be some time to fix it if we've caused a problem. But I hate when they get caught up in politics, when we should be just analyzing the board. Is the board working? Is it doing its job? And then it gets caught up in this kind of back and forth with the legislature, I think. Yeah.
Can you talk about earlier this week, some members of the Freedom Caucus did motions to bring House Bills 44, 22, and 23, the Secure Act, I think they're called, to try to move them out of committee. Can you talk about those actions and what you and your caucus, what your reaction was?
The Freedom Caucus is trying to use the rules to their advantage, and I understand. I mean, we've gotten to know the rules because as a minority, we really have to understand any leverage we have. I think they did that clearly as a political move. They've been broadcasting the votes from those votes widely online, and they've been saying that they were for the bills. So I think that it created an opportunity for them to have a political talking point without really being that. I appreciate, I think people really wanted to sustain the rules, and that's important up here. If we don't have rules, then you don't have fairness among members. And so I saw a lot of people respecting the rules, and it mattered to me that they stood against something that might be dangerous bills. And then later, yesterday, I objected to a bill that I said wasn't pertinent. The amendment wasn't pertinent that had been put in it. Wasn't germane, as our rules say, and they sustained my the objection. And I think that's because if we're going to be rule followers, they're doing it across the board. So it's interesting. It's interesting. If we start having those direct-to-calendar conversations every day, it's going to be mayhem. It reminds me of Congress or something where you just never know what might pop up.